All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and I am absolutely thrilled today to be here with you guys, talking to an absolutely phenomenal human being. I'm not trying to butter you up, Toni, but truly, Toni Marel is my beautiful guest today, and she's here today to talk with us about past life regressions. So welcome, Toni.
Welcome, and thank you for that introduction. That's very kind.
Oh, you're so welcome. And it's so true, though. Honestly, I could go on for a long time about just how grounded and wholesome and educated and wise that you are as a human. But I do want to try and focus on the topic at hand, because there's a lot of people that are really interested about past life regressions and why they are of value. I've had many conversations with people that are intrigued by it, but they're like, why would I want to go into my past lives? Like, what would that benefit? So I do want to dive into that kind of stuff. But before we do, I also want to say that I've experienced a reading with you, or a session with you, where we did go back into my past life, and it was phenomenal. And it was phenomenal because it wasn't just being a medium doesn't mean you have all the answers, or it doesn't mean you have access to all the answers, right? And that's one misconception that some people think, like, oh, you can just ask and you get it. And that's not the case. And sometimes I get in my own way, or I'm not allowed to know at that time or something. But I got so much out of our session because you helped to lead me, so I didn't have to get in my own way. It was phenomenal. So I love that, because the past life regression isn't limited to those that can't access on their own. Like, it adds to anyone's journey. So that's why I'm so excited about it. But Toni, tell us a little bit about what is past life regression? What happens? What is it?
Okay, so firstly, you're speaking about past life regression, and I feel like that's really limiting because what I'm talking about is spiritual hypnosis.
Okay.
So, because that kind of opens up the whole bag, if you like, because past life regression is just simply one point that you can go to. And spiritual hypnosis is this much wider space. So I would say the definition of a past life regression is going back to an experience of a past life, which is, in this life, you're Ginette, I'm Toni, and in previous lives, you had different experiences as different people in many different lands. And in actual fact, if you want to go further than that, in not just on Earth, but so that would be a past life, whereas spiritual hypnosis is kind of the whole gambit, if you like. It is not only our lives, but it's also the in-between. So I feel like if we're talking about the whole bit, then we're definitely talking about spiritual hypnosis rather than just past life regressions. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad that you helped to kind of explain that difference too, because they do get muddled into one, and it is so much more. So you're very right about that. So how did you get into it? How did you find your way to this capacity?
Well, a long time ago, probably, 15, 17 years ago, I was in not such a great place and just feeling, just confused and unhappy, even though I kind of had no reason to be unhappy. And my husband signed me up for a 4-day spiritual kind of awakening retreat thing. It was a Hay House retreat. I had no idea what I was doing. He actually signed me up for all the speakers because I was so not into it. And 2 days before, I actually, he always buys me a stack of books for Christmas, and I put them next to my bed, and I just take the top one and I start reading. And I picked this book, and it was Brian Weiss's Messages from the Masters. And I actually stayed up all night reading it, and I woke him up and in the morning, and was like, this, I don't know how to explain it, but this is truth. And if, for those of you who don't know who Brian Weiss is, he is an amazing author, an amazing person who came from a background of psychology and psychiatry. I think psychiatry, definitely psychology, where he was a leading person in his field, and he started using hypnosis and started, his clients started experiencing past life regressions, and he was very quiet about it because he didn't think it was, he didn't want to tell his colleagues. But anyway, since then, that was many years ago, he's written many books, and I read that book and it was like truth to me. I can't explain it. And my husband said to me, oh, you're going to see him this weekend. And I because I didn't know who I was going to see. In actual fact, I had a whole workshop with him the very first day that I was going, and it changed everything for me. So he actually led us through in that full day day. He led us through 4 past life regressions, and it was so tangible. And the information that I got from there was so useful in my day-to-day life. So from that, and actually that weekend, I also had a day workshop with Denise Lynn, who is another person who has dedicated her life to kind of spiritual curiosity. And I did more regressions with her. And from then I just couldn't get enough. And that has led me, like I bought at those times, I bought all the CDs, I listened to them. I did as much as I could. I journaled everything, that every past life, every experience that I had. And then I started reading Michael Newton's books, which is about life between lives. And that was like a whole different thing. And then I was super excited about having that experience. So I went and sought out a practitioner, and she facilitated a life between lives. And that, again, that reset everything in my whole life, my whole perspective. And just gave me another pair of eyes. And from there, it just drove me to get qualified myself so I could offer this to other people in my own way. So that's a little bit about how I got here.
I love
Never
that.
looked back.
That's great. It's so great. And one of the really interesting things is people that have never been hypnotized before have kind of this fearful Hollywood movie idea that when you're under hypnosis, you're out of your own control. You will go do crazy things like they see in those hypnotherapy theater shows. But can you explain a little bit about the process of hypnotherapy to kind of take away some of the fear that can be around that concept?
Absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a huge part of people's anxiety towards hypnosis. So the first thing is that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I, as a hypnotherapist, am simply guiding you. You don't go to sleep. You're awake for everything. You are cognitive of everything that is happening. You are, in actual fact, it is a co-creation. A hypnotherapist can do nothing to a person. All we do is facilitate. And hypnotherapy is client-based. So if a client is coming to you for one thing or another, then that is the center of everything. And hypnosis is simply guiding somebody into a very relaxed state, so their conscious and critical mind can step aside, and they can have access to their subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is 95% of our mind, actually. And it is the safeguarder, if you like. It will never dip into anything that it doesn't think is safe for you. So if you like to think about it this way, this is the way I think about it, because I also teach meditation. So hypnosis is simply a very direct way of getting into a deep state of hypnosis. And if anybody out there who's listening to this meditates, then that is exactly the state that you're getting into. It is a state that you are fully aware and fully aware of everything that's going on, and you are participating in the hypnosis, same as you're participating in the meditation. It's actually not that different.
You know, and I absolutely experienced that. And that's one of the parts that I loved the most out of you facilitating that experience for me, was that I could work to get myself into a deep meditative state if I need to, right? I have the tools to do that. But that takes me having to work with myself and kind of like facilitate myself. And sometimes we can get hung up in that. And so what I loved about with you is I just stepped out of the way and I followed your lead and you took me there, right? Like that's what was so powerful, was that I had to invest less energy and I simply had to flow to where you led. And it was that deep state of meditation. And that was just amazing. And from there, it was amazing, first of all, how fast you were able to facilitate getting me there. And then how much it could be sustained, because I wasn't worrying about what's going on in my external environment. Oh, what do I need to do? Am I done here? Is there more? Like, again, I just had to go along for the ride and you drove everywhere. Right?
So, that is exactly what it is. All a hypnotherapist is doing is guiding you into a deep state of trance or hypnosis. And trance is, that's where you get that kind of, people start thinking of stage hypnosis, where people are, you know, barking like dogs and things like that. This is not what we're doing. What it is simply a deep state of meditation. And from that deep state in the subconscious mind, you can access not only really early childhood memories and things like that, but it's also where we store our infinite self. So you can start to access all those different lives, the in-between lives. You can access your higher self, your, you know, your counsel, higher counsel, all those kind of things. And it's exactly, the hypnotherapist is facilitating that journey. And you get to, you know, it's interesting always, because sometimes we want certain things. We're like going in for, I want these questions answered, and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. And that is, you know, that is part and parcel of all this kind of spiritual work, if you're comfortable with the word spiritual. And everybody has different words, divine or higher selves or whatever it is. As far as I'm concerned, all hypnosis does is it gives us access to a place where we can get more information. And, you know, it's not spooky, it's not weird, it's certainly not scary. And at any time in hypnosis, if you're uncomfortable, you just open your eyes and you're back. You're, you know, same as in hypnosis. If you're in meditation, if you're uncomfortable in a meditation, all you would do is open your eyes, shake yourself off a little bit, and it's done.
Yeah. And that's such a good point. And also coming back to your comment about the questions, is going into a past life or spiritual hypnosis journey, you ask people to write out a bunch of questions of things they would want to know. So basically, like I said, that you're driving the car, but you're driving the car in the direction that I'm asking you to drive. So you're like my chauffeur in a sense, right? Because Toni had me send her a list of unlimited amount of questions. And at first I was like, I don't know what I would ask. And then soon enough, I had like 15 questions or something, you know, and it is in those moments of that deep state. And in my case, we talked to my counsel. We got to ask all those questions, and some of which we got lots for answers, and some it was very minimal. But that was really interesting because it, again, like you said, there's nothing spooky about it. It's all really laid out, and you just observe what happens as you go along this journey that you help to create with the questions. Now, that being said, the other common question that I have from people is, how is it that they know for a fact they're not making it up? right? They're like, well, what if I'm very good in my brain and I get into this meditative state and you ask me questions? How do I know I'm not answering the questions with answers that I want to hear because I'm making it up?
Yeah, that is a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, hypnosis is, like I said earlier, it is a co-creation, and it is an allowing of yourself to use every facility you have. So your imagination as along with all of our senses, because I want to make also very clear that in any kind of hypnosis, some people do see things. Some people are very visual, but other people hear things. Other people feel things in their body. It's not that there is one right way or wrong way to do it. Very much the same as in our everyday life. Now, you may be very sensitive to smells or sound, or, you know, we're all very different that way, put together very differently. So going into sessions can look, feel, sense very differently to every single one of us. Sorry, go ahead.
No, carry on. That's fine. You're doing great.
Yeah, it's so you can, and it really depends. I also want to clarify, like, it's funny, I was talking to my teacher about what to share with people about spiritual hypnosis, and the answer is always, it depends. It depends on the person. It depends what they're going in and wanting to get information about, and it also depends on whether they're ready to hear that. So it's going, like, I asked you if you had questions because you very specifically wanted to go and see, like, your to get answers about certain things. Other people are just exploring. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can do things like you can explore connections you have with your relationships. You can simply want to get in touch with your higher self. You can ask what path you want to take. Same with, you know, if somebody comes to you for a reading, there is a whole lot of reasons that people can come to you, and it's going to look different for each and every person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's so yeah, it depends. And there's also a time and a place for things. So I had a client who definitely wanted to go, she had like a whole bunch of questions, wanted to go and see her you know, her counselor or higher self, get some clarity. And what she got out of her session was a big roadblock. They were like, you're not getting access to any of this until you start to put in some methods of self-care. And still, until you put yourself first and commit to yourself, we're not giving you any of this access. It's here. So again, it depends, right? Just because we want something doesn't mean we necessarily get it.
Yes, absolutely.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. And I see that in readings too. I always say we can ask whatever questions we want. It doesn't mean we're going to get the answers, right? And the other safeguard, and I'm saying this as a safeguard, is the spirit world, whether you're accessing your higher self, your counsel, even your past lives, you will be given information that is of benefit to help you. It's never anything that should hinder you. It's something that will help you in understanding, in releasing something, in embracing something, whatever it might be. Like, there's a safeguard in that it's always to benefit. It's never to harm, hurt, hinder, or anything like that, right? So it's a very safe practice.
And that is a really great, I'm glad you brought that up. That is the very first intention we set. In fact, before I even see a client, I have like a little ritual where I will call in for the session only for the highest good, only for the best benefit. And we will reset that intention when I'm speaking with a client, and then I reset it once where the client has gone into a certain depth of hypnosis. We will reset that intention that everything is in their best and highest good.
Beautiful. So that being said, so somebody does a session with you, how often is there a recommendation with people, how often there's a benefit, or how often they should allow the answers, the insights to sit with them so they can integrate it before they would do another session?
My rule of thumb, and I mentioned this to you when you had your session, is that you should, obviously it depends on the session, right? But my rule of thumb would be digest it for 2 weeks. And then, because if the person recorded it or requested a recording, then I would say, once you have journal, do whatever it is that you do to digest that, then you could have the opportunity to listen to that again, and then you'll get more information. But especially with spiritual hypnosis, there's a lot of unpacking, and there's a lot of aha moments, not just in the session itself, not just straight after the session, but weeks, months later, you can be, oh, that's what it was, making the connections, or that's what they were speaking about. So this is not something that I would recommend doing, every week. That's not what we're doing. This is about, same with, a reading with you, or a tarot card reading, or whatever it is. If you're going in there and asking, 5 times a day, then you're not going to get the the clarity that you get if you okay, in a couple of months or a week, or I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to sit with those answers, and I'm going to integrate what it is that I choose to integrate, and choose to change things that maybe I got a little guidance on. And and I would say, in a few months' time, if there's something that's that's coming up, then you can do that. The other thing is with hypnosis is that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, right? You're allowing yourself to be guided into that deep state of relaxation. The other thing that I'm really happy to guide people and teach people is how to self-hypnotize, which is it is exactly the same as meditation, only it has certain steps. Whereas meditation, you would have a completely different ritual to get into a different state of meditation than I would. Everybody's different. Hypnosis just has self-hypnosis. You just have certain guidelines.
Very interesting.
And that could come from a recording. But it can also come from just going through the steps and getting yourself into that state of hypnosis.
Right.
But as you mentioned earlier, it is great to have somebody facilitate it for you, because you can step out of your own way. You can just allow yourself to go down that path, be on that journey without having to get your brain involved.
Totally. And, I want to speak to also what you said about taking those 2 weeks after a session to kind of integrate. And it's funny because before we started our session, I was like, okay, so when can I listen to this? And can you record it? And because I wanted to listen to it after. And you're like, you're probably going to want to take 2 weeks before you even listen to it. I'm like, oh, okay. Thinking like, well, I want to make sure I have it. And what's so interesting is that since that experience, I haven't desired to listen to it yet. And it's been, almost a month now? Probably a month. I haven't wanted to listen to it yet because I still feel I'm getting so much shifted for me from having it come from that perspective. I haven't desired to listen to it yet. And I don't know when that will be, which is interesting. So there's a really neat, long-lasting, energetic presence from doing it this way. And I think it's because we don't get in our own way.
And I think speaking to that, at least from my experience, like a hypnosis session is a lived experience of getting these answers. It's not coming through someone else. It is coming through yourself. And you're actually experiencing, in whatever way you experience it, sight, sound, feeling, whatever, you're actually experiencing it yourself, which for me is like a first-hand opportunity to get that information instead of trusting that it's through someone else. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for me, I know that that is speaking to that unpacking. It's so much more powerful that, oh, I have all these memories from past life regressions and from life between lives, and having that, oh, I know what it's like, having that embodied experience of it, this is what it feels like, is so, it's very different from, it kind of reminds me of, when it's coming through someone else, you're kind of like reading it in a book. It's amazing. You can experience it as best as you can reading it in a book. But when you have a lived experience of something, it's so much more powerful.
Yeah.
And it becomes exactly the same as the memory of you having breakfast yesterday. Yeah. It's that clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is amazing, Toni. This is going to give a lot of people a ton of great information. You are absolutely a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so grateful. And even more so, I'm super thrilled that you have joined the Avalon team in being one of the journey guide providers that we have on avalonspirit.com. So if anybody is interested in booking with Toni or learning a little bit more, is to check it out on avalonspirit.com under the journey guides, and you'll find Toni with her smiling face and her offerings on there. And it really is, it's worth it, you guys. If you're curious, don't hold back. You're in very safe hands. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time on this.
Thank you. And I also want to add that if if anybody does want to book with me, then the first thing we will do is have a 15-20 minute phone conversation about, which is completely free, just about what it is that you want to delve into, and answering any of your questions. So before we even get to actually booking a session, that's, having that phone conversation so you're feeling comfortable. Wonderful. And yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having, I am honored to be part of your offerings.
This is great. It's good people doing good things and sharing gifts. That's what it's about, right? Avalon Spirit is gathering of people to help us on our path, because there really is no one way. There's no one way to consciousness. There's many, many paths. So we're so grateful that you're offering yours. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much, Toni. And I know for a fact we'll hear more from you soon. So thanks so much.